I work a graveyard shift as a security guard for a recycling yard. I can't say the company for obvious reasons. I've been on this site for 2 weeks, this being the second. Basically, every hour, I make rounds across a giant recycling yard, covered in various precious metals that are broken down and sold. During my shift, I scan various checkpoints and ensure nobody besides me is in the yard or the facility. One of my other tasks is to go through some grassy, bushy terrain and over a set of train tracks to take a photo of a warehouse far across. This is to ensure that it is safe and clear. I have to use a flashlight with 2000 lumens, so I can see my way through pretty much the entire yard. Well, just an hour and a half ago, on my round, I went through the grass and over the train tracks. I took the picture of the warehouse and submitted it. All of a sudden, I get this intense feeling that I'm being watched. My hairs on my neck stand up and I freeze. My flashlight is still on and pointing at the warehouse. I slowly turn around and point my flashlight behind me. Kid you not, about 10 yards away, I see a skinny, old, wrinkled white man with a large white beard sitting on a chair. He was looking directly at me. He had dirty jean overalls and what I think was a Western-style cowboy fedora on. He was bare skin under the overalls. Now, I'm a 6'2", 220-pound man, but I screamed fuck at a pitch that was embarrassing. Accidentally, I dropped my flashlight out of shock. Mind you, there are thin, tiny metal shards literally everywhere on the ground. I can't see a damn thing now as the flashlight is facing away from my sight. All I hear is a quick pace, shuffling and clanging of metal from footsteps quickly running towards me. Once the metal crunching footsteps are within maybe 5 feet of me, I hear them quickly veer to the left and past me. Within 3 to 4 seconds, the metal clanging is gone, followed by the faraway sound of rustling bushes. I then grabbed my flashlight from the ground and pointed to the sound. The old man was gone, past the bushes, to who knows where. I was shaking from adrenaline and fear. I managed to catch my breath and called several emergency contacts. When they arrived, the old man was long gone. I believe he was just there to watch the active trains move across. I say this because the metal chair was facing the tracks. It's still there. I am now in the office, still terrified and alone. I have to finish my shift tonight, and tomorrow do another 11-hour graveyard shift. It was the summer of 1997, and I was a grad student in Northern California from abroad. Not an immigrant then, just a foreigner getting a degree and planning to go back to the old country afterwards. At the time, my girlfriend was still back home abroad, since we both expected me to return to Europe after graduation, and maybe, though unspoken at the time, possibly get married after that. She came over for a summer vacation. Let's do a car trip down to Southern California. Let's take the coastal highway down to South Cali, see Santa Barbara, Monterey, LA, Venice Beach, San Diego, even drive into Baja. My then girlfriend, and this description of her physical features, is entirely serving as a preparation for what was to come that day. So F off perverts. She had perfectly shaped thin legs and a curved body, long hair, and was generally quite attractive, borderline paranoid, which I knew then already, and she had already given me plenty of headaches when she had dragged me into conflict situations, and she demanded I defend her like a man when the situation had actually been completely provoked by her and deteriorated due to her insatiable, let's say, mental tendencies. Hence, my tendency not to immediately jump on the thought of getting married. Frankly, I wasn't sure about the marriage part, but I knew that then, and I went along with her demands and plans as usual that day. We were nonetheless in love and all that, but perhaps a little less than her. So we did drive down to South Cali from the Bay Area, and eventually my old rusty but beloved clunky 80s convertible I had cheaply acquired as an almost wreck in the Bay Area took us along the beach road to a motel in San Diego. "Let's pick a motel near the beach," she said, "so we can step out and swim in the morning. Let's check in, get dinner somewhere, and drive around town to get the feel. Okay, what she wants goes. She pointed at a motel along that coastal road. There was one after another. But she knew what she wanted, so she chose. This is the one, she said. Let's park and see. The vacancy sign was lit. The parking spots in the motel courtyard were all but empty. I drove in and parked. I had driven the whole day and she could see I was tired. I'll drive later, she said sweetly. I was grateful. She goes to the motel counter while I unload our suitcases. Coming with the suitcases to the reception, she's talking to a youngish, tall, dark blonde guy behind the counter. Not bad looking. He is looking her up and down with small eyes, clearly checking her out. Looks at me, then turns around, grabs a key from the board and says, I've got the perfect room for you. And he leads us up the outside stairs. The motel built like just a chain of rooms lined up, front all looking out towards the ocean. Doors towards the motel parking lot courtyard. He takes us to a room right smack in the middle of the long building, second floor. The entire motel seems empty. I'm tired. But why this room, I thought? Why not downstairs? Or at least at one of the ends? The view is the same everywhere. As we enter, I notice one smaller door next to our motel room door, which says, Service personnel only. Our room is right next to it. Built narrow, but big bed and bathroom. And on the left wall, just across from the big bed, a giant mirror. On the wall of that service room, the guy nods and leaves us to it. As soon as we are alone in the room, and he has left, I turn to my girlfriend and say, Don't you think this is weird? She says, What? I point at the mirror and take a closer look. It is built fixed into the wall, not hanging on the wall. I find this extra creepy. She tells me not to be paranoid. Okay, maybe. I gotta get something out of the car anyway, so I step outside, only to see Mr. Motel Man just stepping out of the service room, locking it behind himself and heading downstairs. Once I was back up, I took a big textile blanket and hung it over the mirror. Maybe I'm paranoid now too, or maybe not. If he was a peeping Tom, he didn't get anything. We take a nap, and later, as we head out for some food and checking out town, night is drawing near. The motel parking lot is now 2/3 full. We were early. Good, my girlfriend says. I feel foolish and swear to myself to be less paranoid. She's usually paranoid enough for the two of us. That mirror though, never mind. So we spent the evening having dinner, driving around, until finally we decide it's time to go back to the motel. It is dark, and it is way before GPS, so I consult the city map we have. I sit on the passenger seat, glad she is driving, while I try to read the map of San Diego in the light of a feeble tiny keychain light. We are driving roughly back in the right direction of the motel, somewhat parallel to the beach boulevard we need to be on. But I realise we might have gone too far. As I stare at the map in that dim light, she looks in the rearview mirror and suddenly says, That van there is following us. I look up. Surely now she is the one being paranoid. Behind us, one lane to the right, is an old silvery blue van, a bit run down, with darkened windows. I swear, she says, he's been behind us for 3 blocks at least, and took the same turns, and he's not passing us even when I drive slow. I look around. There is hardly any traffic in this direction as we roll on. I seriously doubt her, my rational mind telling me that victims rarely ever get picked randomly. I try to calm her down, look at the map again, and get an idea. Look, I said, we actually have to take a U-turn left around to get down into that lane that takes us back towards the beach boulevard with the motel. So, I said, looking down the road at the next traffic light a block away, there is no cop here. Take an illegal U-turn at the next light, then we'll see. She nodded. I know she's a way better driver than me. She has 3 more years driving experience with stick shifts in narrow European streets. Well, I just learned to drive in California. As we approach the next traffic light and crossing a clear no U-turn hanging next to the light, that eerie silver blue van behind us to the right, the light turns red and my girlfriend, gone race car driver, puts the pedal all the way down and shoots over the red light in an illegal U-turn around to get into the opposite direction. And the van, I kid you not, it sped up, shot into our lane behind us and did the same thing. Wheels screeching on the pavement. Then it accelerates full throttle to catch up. Being barely an arm's length behind our bumper, its lights glaring into our rearview mirror, blinding like hell. Hit it, hit it, hit it, I mumbled, now panicking myself. And my girlfriend accelerates, the van behind us, staying on our tail. What now? We shoot down 2-3 blocks, the van right upon us. More cars join in our direction though. Behind us, the traffic gets denser and lanes merge into one. Now, the van is still behind us, but close behind the creepy van, 4 or more other cars, all speeding, all pretty close to each other. We are back on the boulevard where our motel is, 1-lane road, many fairly closely parked cars to our right, with just the occasional gap or entries to other parking lots. A concrete barrier on the left. No room to go but forward. We're moving fairly fast, easily way past the speed limit here, but so is everybody else. How do we shake this van? Surely we shouldn't lead them straight to the motel. Girlfriend's super driver suddenly hits the brakes and veers to the right. The van has no choice. It cannot brake or it will get hit by the cars behind it, and it passes by us on the left, immediately followed by 3, 4, 5 more speeding cars tailing it, all fast in one lane, while my girlfriend swoops the car perfectly into what feels like a tiny pigeonhole of a parking spot. We can't stay here, I muttered, after we came to a stop and catching my breath, totally stunned by her skills. I know, she says, and hits the pedal again, shooting out into the traffic. But now we are behind the van, safely at least 8 or 9 cars behind it. They can't possibly know. Just 200 yards further down came our motel. She took a swing into the parking lot. We parked and rushed up into our motel room, the one with the creepy mirror. I looked back the whole time whether anybody had seen us, but nothing. Just a pleasant summer evening wind, the sound of the traffic going by. I didn't sleep much that night, and neither did she. Just another tourist summer night in San Diego. Today, I think the thing that triggered the creep in the van was this. I had a rundown car with a Northern California license plate, and they must have seen my girlfriend driving. They might not have even seen me, or if they did, just a silhouette. So they might have assumed this was 1 or 2 women lost, far from home, driving around at night. I hear San Diego is wonderful. I'm sure it is, but that entire day felt like an intro to a slasher movie.